If you like what you're hearing, put your money where your media is by supporting ad-free independent podcasts like this one. Go to lauraflanders.com/membership, and thank you. Hi, I'm Laura Flanders, and this is The Laura Flanders Show, the TV and radio program that seeks to raise radical spirits by interviewing forward-thinking people with real models of shifting power from the few to the many in the worlds of arts, entrepreneurship, and politics.
Coming up, a Minicast featuring several revolutionary poets who have performed on The Laura Flanders Show, including Cynthia Dewi Oka, featured in Revolutionary Mothering, an anthology giving voice to mothers of color and marginalized mothers. Janani Balasubramanian of Dark Matter, a transgender South Asian performance duo. Monet, author of My Mother Was a Freedom Fighter, and from the movement music scene, Climbing Poetry. This is The Laura Flanders Show, the place where the people who say it can't be done take a back seat to the people who are doing it. Welcome. Cynthia Dewi Oka.
Walking on water. One day the sky will open and he will walk into the storm without you, without words written down. You can picture crows beating against the window, flashes of skyscraper in the furious cloud. On the sidewalk, cardboard homes dissolve. You are afraid he will find his father amid the shaking branches of bone, though you've tried to whittle him like an arrow. Look straight ahead and feel which direction the wind is blowing. Years ago, a circle of women and kids stood in rain like this, making a roof of their singing. He was there, with you and the megaphone's failed thunder. Pickets clapped the air, the street polished to a mirror. A man, cursing, gunned his truck into the crowd, and you, without a single thought, stepped in front of it. This, always half marooned by poems, is the only mothering you have perfected. You hope he will forgive you one day, when he feels the stones pressing into his feet and sees how words are made of breath, which, like love, are born of disappearing things. A mother is nothing if not a kind of hope, for the sky to open, the storm to be a world scissored with light.
That was Cynthia Dewi Oka, featured in Revolutionary Mothering, Love on the Front Lines, by Alexis Pauline Gumbs, China Martins, and Maya Williams. And now, Janani Balasubramanian, one half of Dark Matter.
When I'm 11 years old, my father tells me that the parking lot smells a lot like marijuana. To say that I'm scandalized would be an understatement. You see, I was the prude love child of my middle school's DARE program, which means that I was taught from a very young age that the minute you consume drugs, you become a very, very bad person. So when my father insinuates that he knows the smell, I judge him to be an evil man and tell him to confess immediately or I'm running away from home. He laughs and says, "The things you will never know about my past." I have never asked my father who he dated before my mother. I have never asked him about his first kiss. I do not know what he hoped his life would look like and whether or not that came true. You see, there's this thing that happens when you call someone a father. He ceases to become a person and instead becomes a punchline for everything that you hate about yourself. He becomes a parable, as if on that day, two new people are born. Everything he is in this moment is now history, his story. There's this thing that happens when you are trans, when you know you are not a man because you know you are not your father's son. And the moment you tell him this, he becomes everything you are running away from. So in this way, being trans is another way of saying, I am running away from home. I have never asked my father what it felt like to become history, to watch 30 years of memory coil inside of his gut, so that every time he laughed he could remember what it felt like to be young again. There's a VCR tape in the living room drawer. Fast forward to the scene where a man who would have looked like me if I hadn't have run away from my father walks out next to a woman radiant enough to be the sunshine when I first opened my eyes. This is my parents' wedding video. In this shot, my father's best friend tells him that he can no longer be a rebel now that he's a married man. This is how I discover that my father used to be a rebel. When I meet his friends from college, they tell me that he spent most of his time hanging out with a man named Karl Marx, and a dream of a decolonized India. They tell me I look just like him. And I want to say, no, I'm not a man. I mean, I'm not that man. My father laughs at me in this video. The same way he will laugh 15 years later in a parking lot. The same way he laughs when I'm back home and use words like revolution and now, and he tells me that he believes in incremental change. So, of course, I accuse him of being a middle-class liberal who's come to care more about his private property than he has his people, and he tells me that there's this thing that happens when you grow older, when you begin to recognize that you are no longer invincible, which is, I think, my father's way of finally admitting that he was never invincible, that his hands were so sweaty from being afraid of all of the ways that I began to look just like him that he could never quite hold on to me, which is, I think, my father's way of finally admitting there are things I had to give up in order to have you. I gained the confidence to yell on the streets because I learned early on how to fight my father. I have been shouting at him for the past 6 years and calling it a relationship instead of a riot. Because maybe that's my way of convincing myself that I see myself in the flames. And maybe that makes all the difference.
That was Janani Balasubramanian, one half of Dark Matter and the primary organizer at the Queer Detainee Empowerment Project. And now Aja Monet reads from her new book, My Mother Was a Freedom Fighter.
Years of a sun loving us. Solitude is in the wrist of a magnolia tree hung or lynched in a rose-throated croon of liberty and justice for all, except blues people live in the smoke at a crossroads. What really happened that day when Robert Johnson brought his guitar to meet an evil of all hues? Play with magic and be ready for it to play with you. Some folks fear death, others know better, fear the devil. Don't sell no soul to spite dying. We all have to go someday or another. Death is a family member you hear of but never met until y'all meet. Some things is meant for telling, other things just is what they was. I have faced worse things than being forgotten. Though you call me woman whom you do not know, I am a daughter of sisters, of pillaged offerings, an afterlife of secrets, scores of lustering light. I summon you bravely beside me, marching onward. Move not for reason, but love. Any law that deviates from this is as cruel as it is ancient. Let your words be soothing terrors. Never mind what was written, we will rewrite it. An idea of freedom is all we know. Our inheritance is to lift one another. We shift into a gust or bristles between strands of hair, ashes of breath raging in quiet. What land is ours to toss and turn over, if not our bodies? The dunes across chest, the legs, all roads, arms, a meadow of marigolds. We survive and regret surviving. We are descendants of the end. We see the end. Fences, barbed wire, stone walls, and iron gates do not impede truth. Nations cannot foresee our being. Here, in this vessel of marrow and sweat, having made it across the bayous of a dark mother's womb, and all that tried her, pushing through treacherous attempts at our lives, fear not what of me resides in you. A shawl of waiting, hankering to be felt. What ails is what ails. Wild visions leave, doors unlocked, days veterans return from combat, injured arms slung close to chest, loyal to a beat or nub. I am a country within a country. Retire, rest a while. Woke and whirring, my beloved, we take to the streets as a sort of rain, descending atop roofs of all those who make laws to define the absence between us. Peculiar spirit who aspires for such things, to possess a people. What sin hunts hearts? The birds, the fish, the cattle, the islands of what is kept sacred. To nurture is to resist. In all forms we heal, we must work the land before we make claims to it. What endures the body is the body. When we left, Our mother's belly, we did not take any land. Only thing we took was the weapon of her smile and the elixir of her love.
That was Aja Monet. And now, Climbing Poetry, performing a piece from their 2018 album, Intrinsic.
Whoever told you you can't fly was afraid of heights you'd reach if you tried. You better free your mind before they illegalize thought. There's a war going on. The first casualty was truth, and it's inside you. The universe is counting on our belief that faith is more powerful than fear. And in that shifting moment, we'll all remember why we're here in a world where you're assassinated for having a dream. And the rich spend $9 billion a year to control our ideas, and visions are televised, so things aren't what they seem. We gotta believe in a world where there's room enough for everyone to breathe. We were born right now for a reason. We can be whatever we give ourselves the power to be. And right now we need dream weavers, bridge builders, truth sayers, light bearers, food growers, wound healers, trailblazers, life lovers, peace makers. Give what you most deeply desire to give. Every moment you are choosing to live, or you are waiting. Why would a flower hesitate to open? Now is the only moment. Raindrop, let go. Become the ocean. Possibility is as wide as the space we create to hold it. We were born right now for a reason. Our words are the water, reshaping rock. Our actions are sledgehammers to apartheid blocks. Our dreams are the keys to prison guards' locks. Our consciousness, a collection of awakening thoughts that decided one day to release all the fear we were taught and give in to love, unfiltered, sun to the dawn, unconditional, mother to son, unexpected. The enemy who put down his gun against the command that hailed from above. A peace prayer, the shout of thousands of drums. The power of the people is the power of us.
Poets featured in this minicast of the Laura Flanders Show podcast included Climbing Poetry, Aja Monet, Dark Matter, and Cynthia Dewi Oka. To listen to interviews with the poets and the full episodes they're featured in, go to lauraflanders.com. Thanks for tuning in.